Right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you and welcome to today's 5 minutes of your time talk show. And here today we are to speak about sexual offenses. And at this point, I'd like to pass the mantle over to Jeremy Kevins, just to fire it up. You may proceed.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Our guest today is Kanana Kimathi Glory. She's a law student at Embu University, and she serves as the female delegate at the School of Law, University of Embu. She has a keen interest in human rights advocacy and research, as well as constitutional law. Even you can get some of her writings online, and outside academics, she has equally participated in various human rights moot court competitions, and she has been awarded the Best Female Oralist Award. I think that is it for the bio of our guest today. So, Linus, you can take it over.
Wow, that was a lovely piece of introduction, Brother Jeremy. So, if we may proceed, Ms. Kanana, what are the common forms of sexual offenses whose knowledge is not that obvious among people, especially Kenyan citizens?
Thank you, Linus and Jeremy. Basically, I will say we have many offenses that are listed there, but maybe I'll just state a few. What is common to most people is rape, that is provided under Section 3 of the Sexual Offences Act. But among other offenses, we have defilement under Section 8, which basically involves penetration of genital organs with a person of a younger age, and where the consent is also not given. And basically the main elements are proof of penetration, the age must be below 18 years, and also the fact that you have to identify the perpetrator. Among other offenses that people don't know, we have child prostitution, which is an offense that is listed under the Sexual Offences Act. We have child pornography, we have indecent acts, we also have deliberate transmission of HIV or any other life-transforming sexually transmitted disease. So basically, there are many offenses, and yeah, just to wrap it up, I feel like those are most common that people don't know.
Yeah, there was one that I was reading somewhere, I don't know, Romeo and Juliet laws of, Romeo and Juliet in quotes, laws under the minors, whereby I don't know if it's a one-size-fits-all sort of law across the world, because in some countries, getting two minors, let's say 15 years of age, kissing is actually a sexual offense. Both of them should be charged for having violated their own bodies while they're still minors. Is that a thing also in Kenya, or do we have a different system?
I would like to talk more about that, in the sense that the Sexual Offences Act is silent on defilement with respect to minors, and it is actually one of the issues that should actually be looked at, because in our current criminal justice system we have instances where defilement has surpassed just a person of an elder to the younger child. It has also come to be even with minors, as you have stated it, but this is something that has not yet been clearly listed in our criminal justice system and also in our various laws. So yeah, the law is silent on that, in as much as we have faced these instances in courts, and courts have dealt with them differently.
If you were given a chance to maybe add, subtract, amend any bit of the Sexual Offences Act, probably the 2006 one, what will it be?
Okay, I will start with Section 8 of the Sexual Offences Act that I've stated earlier. Defilement, yes, I wouldn't say it is expressly provided in full, because just like you have stated, you have those instances of minors engaging in sex, and all of them are of an age that is not considered as an age that is of the majority. So what happens in that instance when our laws are silent on that? And also, I have an issue with the common clause that talks about sexual offenses don't need corroborating evidence, because it has raised a lot of issues with respect to people wanting to adduce secondary evidence, and the fact that people are denied this right to access justice. People are denied the right to have a chance to do DNAs to prove the element of penetration. So to an extent, also that clause needs to be checked on. So basically, yeah, those are the main issues I would look at if there need be review.
Okay, because we all know how these sexual offenses on the tongue of the victims. It's one of the most disgusting topics you can ever try to engage them with them on a one-on-one conversation basis. And which now sends me to my other question: like, is there any like better alternative justice system that would rather be used to be able to try and curb these whole sexual offenses that are happening there? Like maybe castration or hanging or shooting at death, like just any that you might think, yeah.
Okay, when you talk about castration, Linus, and hanging, that is way overboard because these people also have rights. But I would say that there's need to be advancement in terms of our curriculums, even in schools. There's need to be, okay, the judiciary has a duty to transform, right? And various limbs. We have the duty to protect, to respect, to transform. So when we talk about means that can be used, okay, maybe diversion as an aspect, whereby before you proceed to take this matter to court, in an instance like now the minors being engaged in these sexual offenses, we have now parties now getting to discuss the issue first and getting to understand the root cause of the matter, and also to be able to settle this matter out of court to also reduce backlog of cases, because in each and every year we record many cases with respect to sexual offenses. So if you can have not necessarily ADR, but where someone reports these instances, you can have diversions where people first talk it out of court, try to resolve it, other than going through the conviction way. Yeah, I think that will help.
Okay, that is thank you for having answered the questions here. Jeremy, have you got any for Miss Kanana?
Yeah, sure. And I want to thank her so far for the questions that she has answered from your end. And now getting from my end, I'd like to ask her maybe 4 questions before we interrupt. What has been the effect of the Sexual Offences Act? Has it reduced cases of defilement, rape, or there has not been an effect to the act since it was enacted? What's your sentiments on the same?
Thank you, Jeremy, for that question. I would say it has been impactful in a way because when you look at that time and the reasoning behind, coming up with the legislation and all that during that era, there were many cases which were reported at that time. And various provisions of the law that have been provided or established have enabled people to be more aware and know the consequences of engaging in such acts. We have had various levels of punishment. For instance, now when you talk about defilement, because it is one of the most common offense, and people are aware that when you defile an 11-year-old, you are liable to life imprisonment. When you defile a 12 to 15-year-old, you are liable to maybe 20 years and all that. I would say yes, it has, to an extent, it has helped to reduce these offenses, and also owing to the fact that one of the purposes of criminal law is to deter people. So to an extent, it has performed its course, but also there is need to review this act for the purposes of ensuring that we better the society when it comes to these issues, and also we address the entire issue at large and not just place the law there because the law has to be there, but now looking how effective it has been. But looking now, dating back to 2006 and up to now, of course, yeah, it has been impactful in a way.
Okay, it has been impactful. Now getting on to the next question. what I've realized over time, currently I'm on judicial attachment, and I know that you are also in the judicial attachment some time back. I've realized that maybe those people who are charged with sexual offences act, there are some chances whereby they get acquitted over time. So whose fault is it, and how can the whole scenario, we can get like a perfect solution to the whole problem, such that those people whom, provided that we've ascertained that these people have been charged and there are also evidence of the same, we can get them convicted and not getting them getting acquitted over time. Whose fault is it, and how can it be addressed?
I will say, okay, first of all, going back to the trite law that sexual offences don't need corroborating evidence. To that effect, you find that as long as the minor has identified the perpetrator and the viva voce evidence is in line with what is adduced in the submissions, then you have no case as the defendant. So you end up finding that the prosecution is not doing its work. And I will say this because when I was in my judicial attachment, we had an opportunity to go through documents from the prisoners who are engaged in these legal departments. So paralegals, rather, sorry. So you find that they represent themselves and they draft very meaningful submissions and of quality, and it's because they have learned the law with time. So you look at instances where when you talk about that clause, you find that proof of penetration is not enough to just say that as long as you have proof of penetration and you have identified the perpetrator and you are one who is of a younger age, in particular now when I'm talking about defilement, now you can now criminalize this person, because you find that people with time have realized that even proof of penetration can be with other sources, like you can, it can be evidenced with other things, like a broken hymen can be evidenced with other instances, vigorous activities and all that. So you find that the prosecution is not doing its work that much because the law it is not like bringing clarity in terms of the timing of the punishment and also the elements and all that. So I would also say it is not only the prosecution that has an issue, but also the timing of these laws, the timing of these provisions, the ambiguity in these provisions, and you find that people tend to cave in and protect themselves through these provisions. So yeah, and also the fact that when you talk about people being acquitted, people have that definitely it's a right. You have to be deemed innocent until proven guilty under the criminal justice system. But basically, I would say we need to look at the act itself first, and that will be the first step to deal with before even go to trying to identify all these things. Let us look at what the act provides. Let us look at these main actors in this criminal justice system and what they are doing with respect to the same. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that. That was very candid. And now we have this provision, Article 159 of the Constitution enshrines that we are supposed to give other forms of the ADR, the Alternative Dispute Resolution Mechanism, or the Alternative Justice System. From your view, cases of sexual offences, should they be referred to the negotiation, mediation? Should they be referred to them, or to you only the formal justice system that they should be channeled to? What's your view on the same?
I think for the cases of minors and where you get parties to the crime are minors, it would be better to deal with it outside the court and considering now the alternative justice systems. But now when you talk about transitioning the whole sexual offences to alternative justice systems, I think now that will also result to, okay, what will be the need of now these provisions? What will be the need of saying that people will be liable for, it will lose much sense to the act itself. But now when you talk about these minors and people who because one unique thing with sexual offenses is that they are unique in their own way. They are peculiar in their own way. Circumstances change in every case, and yeah, it will be better to deal with it by case approach. But if it is the duty to transform and it is effectively done, then we can go through the alternative justice system, and particularly for the minors, because now taking a minor to, this common trait of taking where minors have engaged in a sexual offense and one minor is taken and the other is left, I wouldn't feel like that is justice in its own way. So yeah, basically on the issue of minors, that would be a good way to deal with it.
Okay. Now on the last question, generally we now have people whom, courtesy of the sexual offenses, they become victims. The victims to rape, the victims to defilement, everything. So from your view, how should they be treated? Like, what's the role maybe of government agencies to ensure that these people are safeguarded, protected? Yeah, what's your view on
that? Okay, looking at the victims of sexual offenses, we have, I think, the national guidelines on sexual violence management that has been established. I don't remember the year, but it is there. And under that regulation, or rather that guideline, we have provisions that are provided, and we have a certain provision on offering psychological support to these people, issuing counseling programs for these victims, and ensuring that you have an evaluation basis on their progress, because these victims respond differently to this offense. The Ministry of Health has partnered with these organizations, NGOs and all that, and also the Cabinet Secretary for Health. We have drafted and established guidelines with respect to the same on how to manage sexual violence. And to this effect, we have a provision that talks on how to take care of these victims, and that is offering psychological support and counseling programs and all that. And aside from that, even in the private sector, we have now organizations who have voluntarily come up with these programs to help out. So yeah, they have that avenue to be taken care of.
Okay, thank you. That was all from my end. And now to give our last remarks before we end.
Just before we give our last remark, there is a question that just popped in my mind. Well, full disclosure, I'm no law student or any legal advisor whatsoever. I'm just interested in the law. And yesterday I got myself reading this Sexual Offences Act 2006, and there was one interesting bit that struck out, whereby they were trying to describe it by saying any person who unlawfully compels, induces, or causes another person to engage in an indecent act. Like, that part of inducing is the one that really struck me. So does that mean that even flirting with someone is a violation of the Sexual Offences Act? Is that like regarded as an offense?
I wouldn't think so. I would say that looking at the wording of what you have just said, I think it is also for the purposes of protecting young persons, because the law does not recognize people below the age of 18 to have consent. So when you talk about, let me answer your question with a certain offense. When you talk about child prostitution, and we talk about individuals being held liable for inducing a child to engage in prostitution act so that they can further their financial interests. So that act of inducing that minor so that you can, further your financial interest by her engaging in prostitution, that now amounts to an offense. So I think it's for the purposes of helping not only children, but also mentally disabled people or people who do not have the capacity to give consent on their own. But also the indecent act on its own is still an offense. Be it a minor, be it an adult, it's still an offense, because I think it involves penetration of genital organs, or maybe with a part of a body of an animal or an object. So that in itself is an offense, but also the inducing aspect can also be used to protect victims who cannot give consent by their own selves in other sexual offenses such as prostitution, rape, and all that. So yeah, but I don't think flirting can amount to, yeah.
All right, that's good to know. I think it's the whole purpose of this. We get to learn, get to know your perspective and all that, and we really love the fact that you decided to and also made up your mind to spare your 5 minutes of your time to maybe show up for this, although it's taken of 20 minutes. And yeah, now to our closing remarks, is there any like information you'd like to give to anyone who will be watching this about anything to do with the Sexual Offences Act from your end now?
Oh, okay, thank you. I think it's time that people get to learn these things, and also considering the current state of our country and the fact that these cases are rising, and also the fact that minors are engaging in these activities, there is need for people to be aware and also get to know their responsibilities even as an individual, and even for the youths themselves to participate in trying to discourage these offenses, be it through now this platform that you have graciously established, which is really helpful, and also other platforms that people can engage in to ensure that people get aware of, this kind of offenses. Yeah, and thank you so much for having me.
All right, Ms. Kanana, we really appreciate, as I've said, yeah, and thank you for your perspective of this whole act. So, Mr. Jeremy, if you don't have anything else to say, we can maybe call it a day, although that's what they already called it. Yeah.
Okay, I would just like to thank our guest of the week, Ms. Kanana, for having given us a good chunk of her time so that we get to discuss the Sexual Offences Act and wholesomely and provide solutions, and also see the loopholes and gaps in the law. I think it was very succinct, profound. So from my end, I think maybe we'll be inviting you more and more. I hope you won't decline our invitations anytime that we might invite you on any specific topic. But I would also like to thank you because it was on a short notice and you delivered. So kudos to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, that has been it for us today. Thank you very much for showing up as well.
Thank you. Thank you too.